Today our topic is how to live a life of purpose according to philosophy. Life is a journey, and like any journey, it helps to have a map, a direction, or at least an idea of where you want to go. But how do we find that direction? How do we live a life that feels meaningful, purposeful, and fulfilling? Philosophy, which is the love of wisdom, has been asking these questions for thousands of years. From ancient thinkers like Socrates and Marcus Aurelius to modern philosophers like Viktor Frankl and Jean-Paul Sartre, many have tried to answer this big question. What does it mean to live a life of purpose? Let's explore some ideas from philosophy that can guide us. First, let's talk about purpose. What is purpose? Purpose is the reason why we do what we do. It's the why behind our actions. Without purpose, life can feel empty or meaningless. Think of it like a ship without a destination. It might float, but it won't go anywhere. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle believed that every human being has a purpose, which he called the telos. For Aristotle, the purpose of life is to achieve eudaimonia, a word that means happiness or flourishing. But this isn't just about feeling good or having fun. Eudaimonia is about living in a way that fulfills your potential as a human being. It's about being the best version of yourself. So how do we achieve this? Aristotle thought that the key to a purposeful life is to live according to virtue. Virtue means excellence of character. It's about being honest, brave, kind, and wise. These virtues are not just rules to follow. They are habits that we develop over time. For example, if you want to be brave, you have to practice facing your fears. If you want to be kind, you have to practice helping others. By living virtuously, we align ourselves with our true nature and find meaning in our actions. Now let's look at Stoicism, another ancient philosophy that can help us live with purpose. The Stoics, like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, believed that the key to a good life is to focus on what we can control and let go of what we can't. They taught that many things in life, like other people's opinions, the weather, or even our own health, are outside of our control. Trying to control these things only leads to frustration and disappointment. Instead, we should focus on our own thoughts, actions, and attitudes. This is where our true power lies. The Stoics believe that by accepting what we cannot change and focusing on what we can live a life of peace and purpose. For example, imagine you're stuck in traffic. You can't control the traffic, but you can control how you react to it. You can choose to get angry and stressed, or you can choose to accept the situation and use the time to think or listen to music. By focusing on your response, you take control of your own happiness. This is a simple example, but it shows how Stoic principles can help us live more intentionally. Another important idea in Stoicism is the concept of Amor fati, which means love of fate. This means accepting everything that happens to us, good or bad, as part of our journey. The Stoics believe that even difficult experiences can teach us important lessons and help us grow. By embracing our fate, we can find meaning in every moment of life, even the hard ones. This doesn't mean we have to like everything that happens, but we can choose to see it as an opportunity to learn and become stronger. Now let's move to a more modern philosopher, Viktor Frankl. Frankl was a psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust, and his experiences led him to develop a philosophy called logotherapy. The central idea of logotherapy is that the primary drive in human life is not pleasure or power, but meaning. Frankl believed that even in the most difficult circumstances, we can find meaning if we look for it. In his book Man's Search for Meaning, he wrote about how prisoners in concentration camps found purpose by helping others, holding on to their memories, or simply choosing to endure their suffering with dignity. Frankl's message is powerful. No matter what happens to us, we have the freedom to choose our attitude. This idea is similar to Stoicism, but Frankl adds that finding meaning is essential for our mental and emotional well-being. He said, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." In other words, when we have a purpose, we can endure almost anything. Frankl's philosophy reminds us that even in the darkest times, we can find light by focusing on what gives our lives meaning. So how do we find our purpose? This is a big question, and the answer is different for everyone. Some people find purpose in their work, others in their relationships, and still others in creative or spiritual pursuits. The important thing is to ask yourself what matters most to you. What are your values? What do you care about deeply? What kind of person do you want to be? These questions can help you discover your own sense of purpose. One practical way to find purpose is to think about your strengths and how you can use them to help others. For example, if you're good at teaching, you might find purpose in sharing your knowledge. If you're good at listening, you might find purpose in supporting your friends or family. The key is to connect your talents with something bigger than yourself. Purpose often comes from contributing to the well-being of others or making a positive impact on the world. Another way to live with purpose is to set goals that align with your values. Goals give us direction and motivation. But it's important to choose goals that are meaningful to you, not just goals that others expect from you. For example, if you value creativity, you might set a goal to write a book or learn to paint. If you value health, you might set a goal to exercise regularly or eat better. By setting goals that reflect your values, you create a life that feels authentic and fulfilling. At the same time, it's important to remember that purpose is not something you find once and then keep forever. It's something that grows and changes as you grow and change. Life is full of surprises, and sometimes our plans don't work out the way we expect. But even when things don't go as planned, we can still find meaning in the journey. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre said that we are condemned to be free, meaning that we have the freedom to create our own meaning in life. This can be scary, but it's also empowering. It means that no matter what happens, we have the power to choose how we respond and what kind of life we want to live. Finally, let's talk about the importance of mindfulness in living a purposeful life. Mindfulness means being fully present in the moment without judgment. It's about paying attention to what's happening right now, rather than worrying about the past or the future. Mindfulness can help us appreciate the small joys of life, like the taste of food, the sound of birds, or the feeling of sunlight on our skin. It can also help us stay focused on what's important and avoid distractions. The ancient philosopher Epicurus believed that the key to happiness is to enjoy the simple pleasures of life. He didn't mean that we should chase after luxury or indulgence, but rather that we should appreciate what we already have. By being mindful, we can find joy in everyday moments and live with gratitude. Gratitude is another important part of living with purpose. When we take time to appreciate the good things in our lives, we feel more connected to the world and more motivated to make a positive difference. In conclusion, living a life of purpose is not about achieving fame, wealth, or success. It's about living in a way that feels true to who you are and what you value. It's about developing virtues, focusing on what you can control, finding meaning in your experiences, and setting goals that matter to you. It's about being mindful and grateful for the present moment. Philosophy teaches us that purpose is not something we find outside of ourselves, it's something we create through our choices and actions. So take some time to reflect on what matters most to you, and then take steps to live a life that reflects those values. Remember, the journey of life is yours to shape, and every step you take can bring you closer to a life of purpose and meaning.